Yep. Good evening, everyone. So, last session we learned how to create a new React application. We discussed about how to use React using CDN links and how we can add React application using offline library. And one more we learned is how to create a separate React app. To create a separate React app, we have to use the option npx create React app, and we created one application. So shopping React, and to start this app, we have to use the command npm start. So I hope everyone tried this. You are able to create a React application, right? So today we will see how this React application works, the basic flow of React application. So generally, React application, it comprises of all the components inbuilt. I told you that we will able to create such apps from the basic level at the end. So from the scratch, we can build everything. But now, first we will see how to work with this application. After creating the React application, when you start the React application, I am opening this in VS Code, and we will start this application. To start the application, just in the terminal, you have to run the command, and the command is npm start. Npm start will start your React application, and your React application will be running on server with some default port number defined. So npm start is actually a batch program. Already we discussed about batch programs. Now, once the application starts, how this application is going to work, we will see the flow, the basic request flow, how it actually works. So last session, I showed you when we request localhost and some port number, this application home page comes. Now, what is the background architecture for this? So in the background, how it is going to work. Let's see the request flow. It is compiling. Meanwhile, we will see the request flow, how actually works. Now, in this, we created a React application. So we have a React application. Let's keep this as React shopping. So this is React shopping, and this is your React app. That is the React app. Now, how this React app is going to work? Actually, from client side, so this is the client. From client side, the request will come to web server. So this is the client, or we say user. Actually, the request will come to, the client request will come to a web server. Generally, we call this web server as HTTP server. The client request comes to a HTTP server. Now, this HTTP server you can also call as web server. In this web server, we usually have, this is the React application running. You can see the React application is running on local host. The port number is 3000. So it is automatically displaying this screen. How this screen is coming, I am going to explain now. That is the flow I am showing you, how this screen is coming, right? Let's see. Actually, after the compilation is finished successfully, your application is running in this location. So you have to just open the browser and request this, and it will show you the React application home screen. How that home screen is coming? So this is the flow. You make a request from the client. Generally, what is the request we made? So the request is HTTP and colon localhost, and it is 3000. Some port number is 3000. When we made the request, that request comes to web server. Actually, web server usually uses a HTTP processing pipeline. It uses a HTTP processing pipeline. Every web server usually have a HTTP processing pipeline. So it is having a processing pipeline. In this pipeline, the complete process will happen. In this HTTP processing pipeline, usually there will be a HTTP handler. We have a HTTP handler. HTTP handler. This HTTP handler is responsible for managing all the requests. That means get, post, put, delete, all those requests are managed by this handler. So client makes a request will come to web server. In the web server, the request will be processed by HTTP handler. What this HTTP handler will do, I will show you the point. We created a React application. In this React application, actually, the startup page, in that React application, the startup page is index.html. This is the startup page. In index.html, usually there will be a div with an ID called root. With an ID called root. Now what happens is, there will be a component called, we have a component called, there is a component called app component. We will have an app component. This app component is having, already I told you, component is having some UI. The component is having some styles, and the component is having some logic. Now this component is actually attached to this div. The component is attached to the div. So when client makes a request, what happens is the request will come to handler. This handler is going to, it is going to use a engine called routing engine. It is going to use an engine called routing engine. This routing engine will verify the requested URL. That means it will check what is the URL requested. And whatever the URL requested by client, it will verify whether that requested URL is available in the app. That means we created an app. In that app, what is the startup page? Index.html. But is index.html having the presentation? It is not having the complete presentation. Presentation is present in a component called app component. That app component is attached to index. That means a virtual DOM is created and that virtual DOM is added into that root. Now, generally, whenever an application is created in React, the application related information is present in a table. We call this table as route table. We have a route table. This route table will have the information about, it will have the information about request, and it will have the information about the component. That means which request, which component. That means it will have, the table will have the details like if user is requesting /home, which component to deliver, some home component to deliver. That information is present here. That means now what happens is the information about what are the resources available in your project. In our project, what are the resources available? That information is actually maintained in a table called route table. Now, when user makes a request, the request will come to server. Server sends that request to routing engine. Routing engine will verify is that requested path is available in this app. That means our application contains, this is up to our application. This is up to our application. Understood? Our application contains a route table. What that route table contains? The route table contains information about what are the resources available in application. Whenever client makes a request for any resource, that resource available or not, it is verified by routing engine. After verifying if that resource is available, that resource it will send to client. That means client makes a request, it will verify. After verifying, that information will be sent to the component. Component is added into root. After that component is added into root, the UI comes back. That UI will be sent to the route table. This route table will send that to the routing engine. Routing engine send back to the handler. Handler will render the output to the client. That means whatever client is requesting, that information will be rendered on his screen. That means client makes a request and your application will send a response. But in the background, who is responsible for tracking the request? Tracking of request is done by routing engine. If anything you requested and it is not available in the application, then immediately you will get an error called 404. 404 means not found. That means you are requesting something and it is not available. Then it returns 404. Can you close that one? Don't. So technically, when you make a request, when you make the request, that request is going to work in the background like this. But actually, this is a high level design. This complete scenario you can see later, because for that you have to learn routing engines and all that are part of our React. Later we will see that. Just observe only two concepts here. When client makes a request, which page is going to come? Index page. Is that index page having directly the content what client is watching? No. That information comes from which component? App component. This app component is going to deliver the presentation onto the index. So whatever the output currently you are watching on screen, which page you are currently watching? Index. Which component you are currently watching? App component. So now if I want to change this screen, I have to change this screen. Do I need to edit index page? We don't need to edit index page because index page contains the main DOM. We have to create one component. We have to render that component into the index page. So now we will see the process how it is going to work. That means actually the information is coming from component. So the diagram I will give to you, I will show you simple steps first. Client makes a request from browser. Client makes a request from browser. What is that request? http:/localhost. Our port number will be how much? 3000. There may be several doubts like, can I change the port number and all? Yes, you can change. Because when you create a React application by yourself, you can tell on which port number it should launch, in which IP address it should work. All this you can configure, right? Currently, if it is by default, in every computer, the default port number is 3000. That is the default port number. Okay. Client makes a request from browser to this. What it will do is the request is processed on web server. We call this web server as what? HTTP server. And who is going to process that request? So request is processed by HTTP handler in a HTTP processing pipeline. In HTTP processing pipeline, it is handled. The request is processed by a handler, and that handler will process that request in a pipeline. We call it as HTTP processing pipeline. Remember, this is the basic flow for every web application. Every web application in the world, initial flow will be this. Client makes request, it comes to web server. In the web server, there will be processing pipeline. In the pipeline, the request is managed by handler. Whether you are Java, .NET, PHP, Angular, React, every application, the initial request flow will be this. Now here, what happens is how the handler knows whether the requested content is available or not. What do you say? Just now you saw na, how the handler knows whether the requested resource is available or not to deliver you. So that means handler, HTTP handler uses a routing engine. Understood? It uses a routing engine. What this routing engine will do? So routing engine verifies the request by using route table. What is route table? What is route table? Route table comprises of information about the resources provided by application. Understood? What are the resources provided by application? All that resources information is present in route table. What routing engine will do? It will verify whether the requested URL is available in the application. Application related all resources information is present in route table. Routing engine will verify. Now very important is, if requested resource, if requested resource is not available in route table, then what will happen? Then it returns 404. I hope you know 404 is what? Not found. Now if requested if requested if requested if requested URL or requested path is available, then it returns 200. 200 is okay. 200 is okay. Now on okay, what will happen? On okay, what will happen in your React application is, on okay, app component is rendered into root of index.html. Understood? When request is okay, app component is rendered into root of index.html. After rendering that app component into index, now index.html is rendered into browser. Understood? This is all the process that happens. I hope everyone understood. Is there any confusion in this? Client makes a request will come to web server will process the request in pipeline. In the pipeline, the request is processed by a handler will make use of routing engine. It will verify whether the requested resource is available in that application or not. How it will verify? By using route table. Application have a route table. In that table, it will mention what resources it is having. Routing engine will verify whether that resource is available or not. If the resource is available, then it will load that into index, and that index will be delivered to you. This is the process that happens. So directly index page is not coming. There is a lot of work happening in the background. So this flow you can practically later see step by step, because you can even create a route table by yourself. You will learn how to create a route table, how to manage the request, how to send the response. This all we can create by ourselves. For that, we will learn a separate topic called routing, which is very important for designing complete navigation. In a single page application, complete navigation is managed by which one? Routing. That you are going to see, right? Initially, this is the basic process. So here some important questions. Here you need to know some important is, so which component is rendered by default? So the answer is app component. App component is rendered by default. So now another question, where is the source? So where is the source for app component? The source for app component is actually, it is in src app.js. In src app.js, app component related all the logic is present in src cs. Now in this file, you go and you modify. Whatever you modify, it will display in index. Now here another point is, so where is the source present? App.js. Okay, you go here and see now. In src, there is app.js. In src app.js, open that app.js. You can see this is app.js. And what app.js is having? It is having a function. I already showed you every component can be a function or a class. That we will detail see now in detail we will discuss. And see, this is returning lot of things. Okay, what I will do is I will clean up all this. Okay, I am cleaning up all this and just I am keeping a div. So in this div I am keeping just a heading, and in that heading I am just writing as, suppose, React shopping app. I am just writing React shopping app. I will save this. Automatically this file, actually this file modified, and you can see the output is to be modified here. Refresh and you can see the output of that file will be modified. That means you are making change and you can see that is modified. So from where that screen is coming, whatever you are watching on initial screen, it is coming from app.js. App.js here. So one more important point you need to know. Here another interesting part you will see in interviews also, they ask this question. In interviews, anybody may ask you, as a fresher, they will ask you that, show me your index HTML. So we will go to, where is that index HTML? Public. In public, we have index.html. When we see this index.html, there is no script linked here. Is there any script linked here? There is no script linked here. There is no script. And you see there is an option div root. Script related nothing is there. Script related nothing is there. It is complete empty. So now interviewer will ask you, like, then how that component is rendering? Because you saw when we created our own index page, we linked all the script files na? React dom.js, react.js, babel.js. Without linking all these, how this is working? That is a basic question asked in interviews. So in even many experience level interviews also this question comes. Like in index page, there is no file linked. Then how it is working? The answer for this, if anybody asks you this question, that means, so how index.html is able to access the scripts? So without linking the script files. Understood? Now the answer for this is by using webpack. This is very, very important. By using webpack. Now question is, what is this webpack? So what is this webpack? So the question here, what is webpack? So anywhere you heard about this? No. Actually, webpack is a bundler. Webpack is a bundler. We call it as a bundler. Actually, it is used to bundle all resources of your application. It is used to bundle all resources of your application. That means resources means it can be scripts, it can be styles, it can be what else it can bundle, images, etc. All can be bundled. And what is the speciality of bundler is nothing but what it will do is it can configure so which script to render in HTML page. It will configure which script to render in HTML page. That means here the point is without linking script file script file, it can render the scripts. This is a very, very important feature. Without linking the script files, it can render the scripts. How it will do this work? Actually, it uses mapping. It uses mapping. Actually, mapping, so, and we call it as model binding. It uses mapping and model binding. Mapping and model binding is a concept in software technology. It is available in every software technology. You are learning any software technology in the world, we have a concept called mapping and model binding. Mapping and model binding is nothing but where you kept the file, what name you given to the file, that matters. If the name and location is matching, then automatically it will map to that location and access. Without linking, you can access. Without linking, you can access. For example, I hope you know, already you know that in a web application, if we keep index.html, automatically it starts. Am I right? Every web application starts with which file? Index.html. Now the question asked is how index.html automatically starts. Server uses a mapping technique. In that mapping technique, it will verify is in the root folder any file by name index, and if it is, then it can launch that file. If location of index is changed, or the spelling of index is changed, or name of index is changed, then mapping fails. Mapping fails. This mapping is done by using Webpack. You are going to learn how to do this all mapping by using Webpack. That is the last topic you are going to learn in React. Because to use Webpack like concepts, you must be master in the technology you learned. That means in your technology, you should know every concept. Then only you can use this mapping. First, you should know what are the files, how to write the configurations. So that is the reason this topic you will learn towards the end. At the end, I will tell you how to use this. And it is not only for React. Every JavaScript based application is going to use this Webpack. You can see separately there is Webpack. You can see here Webpack here. This is the official Webpack. And you can see this is Webpack. And it says Webpack. It says bundle your assets. Bundle your assets. Assets are your resources. This is a bundler. This is a bundler. That means your JavaScript files, your CSS files, your images, everything can be bundled. And this is very much used for every purpose. Actually, it will use configuration. It will use configurations. This is a very big concept. Later, I am going to explain this. This is a very big one. That means, see, all these are the technologies which use. These are all the people which are using this, including SAP, Angular, React, everybody. Every technology related options are available here. React, Python, every concept is available here. Right? Technically, this is required to handle all the mapping. This makes your files more clean. That means you will write a JS file, but you will not link that to index, but it will be working for index. That means your index is very clean. It contains only presentation. This mapping plays the key role in designing such clean applications. Clean separation, clean reusability, maintainability, testability we can achieve by using this. by using this. So generally this is very, very regular important question asked for interviews in React. That means how come the files are working without linking them, right? That means there is no CSS file, there is no JS file. Then how styles are working here? How the scripts are working here? So that means by using a concept called Webpack. And who is this Webpack? Webpack is a bundler. What this bundler will do, it will use mapping techniques and it will bind the files so that without linking the files, the content of the file can be rendered into your page. That is the concept of Webpack. Another important, now you can see, this is okay. Now in index page, you got a clarity that in index page, there is nothing linked, but all are working. Now another question now is, thus from where the scripts for this file are coming? From where the scripts are coming? So that means here another question is, so what is the source for index.html? What is the source for index.html? That means from where index.html is accessing scripts. From where it is accessing scripts? The answer is, it is from src index.js. In src index.js. Even this file is also not linked in index.html. Right? But the logic of index.html is coming from here, index.js. Let's see what index.html having. You can observe index.html is having a div. In the div, we have an ID called root. Am I right? Now into that root, if any content has to be rendered, that means it is coming from index.js. Maybe in this file, there is a constant root document dot, what is it? So create root. So which element to create? Document dot get element by ID. Get element by ID. Which element? Root element. After that, into the root, it may be using, what is it? Render. It may be rendering an app component. Understood? App component. It is rendering app component. Let's see, is this code available in this file or not? Right? If that code is available, then only this is working. That means the source for index.html is coming from which location? Index.js. So let's go to index.js now. See here, body, there is a div called root. And let's go to index.js. When we go to index.js, you can see it is importing React. It is importing React DOM. Am I right? And observe here, it is importing a component. Component is a function created in app.js file. Na? It is importing that component. And we learned module system, right? It is using component. Report web vitals are used for reporting the errors in your application. Error log is managed by this. And you see now, it is a root and it is creating root. It is accessing which one? Document get element by ID root, and it is rendering which component? It is rendering app. It is rendering that app component. So that is working here. That app component is coming from which file? App.js. App.js. From app.js, app component is coming and it is delivered here. It is displayed here. This is the basic hierarchy of your project. And the main question we already answered. Okay, index.js is having code. Without linking it, how it is working? That is because of mapping. So if you ask, can I see where it is mapped? You cannot see that as of now. So that is later. When we design our own web app, I will show you how and where we can see that. Actually, what happens, this is a project. In this project, so many files are present. You can see so many files are present. These all files you are going to understand and learn about them one by one. So then you can get a complete clarity. But in the beginning itself, if you try to understand, it is complicated. So we will leave them. Just we need to understand index.js. We need to understand index.html. Index.js is in source. Index.html is in our, it is in our public. It is in public folder. Okay. That is the only basic point you need to understand initially, right? Now, this is the content which is going to deliver. Now, let's see how we can create our own component, how we can create our own component and render, how we can design our own component and render, and what are the basic rules of creating the components. Here, one more question you can have, actually you can see, but it is already known to everybody. Generally, some interviews for freshers, they ask, so can we run React? Can we run React application? Can we run React application in browser where JavaScript is disabled? Can we run React application in browser where JavaScript is disabled? Can a React application work with JavaScript disabled? What do you say? That is general concept, like many times just to confuse you or to know whether you are architecturally perfect or not. This is even for experience, they asked this question in React. That means many times, because many times people are confused about this. Remember, there is no application in the world which belongs to JavaScript runs without JavaScript, right? There is no chance at all. JavaScript must be enabled. That means no, you cannot run. That is the reason you might have observed. So already you know how to know JavaScript enabled or not. How to know JavaScript enabled or not? In HTML, you have learned that in HTML, there is a tag called no script. This tag will verify whether JavaScript is available or not. If JavaScript is not available, then it will show message. If enable, it will run. It will not display. That is the reason you might have seen, observed in index.html. In index.html page, there is no script. No script is a general HTML tag which is used to verify whether JavaScript enabled or not. If JavaScript is not enabled, no script will display the message. If it is enabled, it will not. For example, let's see here. Currently, JavaScript is running. I can't see that message. You see, there is a message. Please, you need to enable JavaScript to run this app. That message is not coming because JavaScript is enabled. Let me disable JavaScript in my browser. It is edge:/settings. Same, you can open your Chrome settings and others. In Edge settings, I will search for JavaScript. You can see JavaScript related settings will come here. In this JavaScript settings, I will just allow JavaScript. I will block it. JavaScript is disabled in my browser now. I will refresh this React app. Then it will show the message. It says that you need to enable JavaScript to run this app. This is a very general thing you learned in HTML, right? How to verify JavaScript is enabled or not by using no script. If JavaScript is enabled, then again this will be there. The message is not displayed. That is displayed only when it is disabled, right? So this is very, very important. So if you got any doubt like what is this no script in my HTML page, that is a general HTML tag used to verify whether JavaScript enabled or not. And you cannot run your React application with JavaScript disabled. It is mandatory to JavaScript enable, right? This is the basic point, right? I hope you got a clarity where to make the changes. That means your application, when you request, it starts with index. The logic for index comes from index.js, but in index.js, a component is rendered and that component is default which component? App. Now we will learn how to create our own components. Let's see how to create our own components. So this is the major concept in React components. React components. First important. So I already explained, but detailedly I am telling you. What is a component? Component is a template, right? Component is a template that comprises of three basic things. It contains presentation, it contains styles, and it contains logic. Component is a template that contains presentation, styles, and logic. And very important is presentation. Presentation is defined using HTML. So styles are defined by using CSS, and logic is defined by using JavaScript, or later you can use TypeScript. Currently it is JavaScript, later we can use TypeScript. That means it contains a presentation, some styles, and some logic. And this is not a new concept. Already we have components everywhere. Component based designing is very good. It is easy, fast. Building applications. That means you can say components are building blocks for React application. React application is completely built by using components. Actually, components is a very common concept. Like you see, you know, Bootstrap. We have navbar component, we have card component, we have carousel component. Everything is component based. Actually, I will show you a sample React application. The sample React application, suppose we have Netflix. Netflix is a React application. It is completely built in React. Now in this Netflix, at the top, you can see this is header component. And this is the main component. That is the main component. In the main component, there is a register component. There is a register component. You can observe that this register component, you can see here, this register component, I want again and again. Then you can see when I scroll down at the bottom, there is again. Component advantage is reusability. What do you think? They copied and pasted the same code 2 times. All these days, suppose you are learning HTML. You designed a small login like screen. You want the same screen in another page also, then you used to copy and paste it. Am I right? That is not good design. That is not good design. Suppose you created a header and you want that header in several pages, you might have copied and pasted it. That is not good design. So what a developer should do, They have to develop it like a component, and they must able to use it in every page. What is advantage? If I make the change in the component, it will affect everywhere. Copy paste is not, because in software projects, we have to follow the principle dry. Dry means don't repeat yourself. Don't repeat yourself. You should never rewrite the code. You should never copy and paste any code. Copy and paste means rewriting the code. I should never see any set of code repeating. So that is very, very important. So then we design components, and I hope this is a component called accordion. I click on this, it will expand. I click on second, first one will collapse and second one will expand. This is called accordion. And at the bottom, you can see there is footer component. So everything we can design like a component. We will try to design this Netflix like screen. We will try to design this Netflix like screen. For that, we have to learn how to work with the components. First, this is our target. We must able to design this screen, and we will do that in the first beginning 3-4 days itself. That's not a big challenge. We can easily do it. But for that, you need to learn some basics of component. So let's see what is it. Actually, how a component is designed. React components are designed. So are designed by using two things. One is function, or by using class. You can design components by using a function or a class. Now tell me, as a JavaScript learner and developer, what is difference between a function and a class? What is the difference between function and class? What do you say? Now, I'm asking it not function and method, function and class. What do you say? Mutable, immutable is about function and method. Understood? I'm not comparing function with methods. I'm comparing function with class. What do you say? Function, class is a template, function is operation, function is used business logic. What do you say? Function is? So function, okay. Yeah, see, actually, I'm just asking with regard to JavaScript, right? With regard to JavaScript. With regard to JavaScript, what do you know as a function and class? That is the point. Actually, means what are the problems and what are the issues with this is function also can have set of functions inside. That is not a challenge. That is not a point, right? Sometimes people think that class can contain set of methods. Function also can have set of functions. That is not a point. Function also can have set of functions. But what is the main point here is, so classes will support, so inheritance, polymorphism, am I right? Classes support inheritance and polymorphism. That means classes are easy to extend. What do you say? Who is this? Pawan. Good, right? What is it? Class is extensible. Classes we can extend. Can you extend a function? We cannot extend a function. So classes can be extended. classes exhibit because they are object oriented OOP features. That means class is a template. So function also can be used as template. We are using functions and classes both for templates. But what is the advantage of the class is class allows extensibility. It allows extensibility, and class can exhibit polymorphism. So generally, but one problem is there. What is the problem is class uses more memory. Class is very complex. Class is tedious. That means it is slow and it will take more time. Obviously, I told you na OOP concepts, 3 types of programming systems are there: POPS, OBPS, and OOPs. What are the drawbacks of OOP? They use more memory, they are slow, they are very complex, they are tedious. All these are the issues. They cannot directly interact with hardware. They need more memory, right? That is the reason technically, actually few years back in older versions, we used to prefer classes very much, because at that time in React, classes can maintain state also, but now functions also can maintain state. So that point stateless, stateful, that is dead now. That is dead because functions also can have state, but it is explicit state. That later I will explain. You don't worry what is state. Why? Because generally when people ask what is difference between class component, function component, some differences are there, we have to tell. But we will not go into that concept now. Just we need to understand as per JavaScript knowledge when to use a function and when to use a class. Component can be created by using function as well as class. Now tell me, as a developer, for which component you will prefer class? So if any component is not standard and it needs regular extensions, regularly changing, then better to design by using class. But if any component doesn't require regular extensions, it is having a stable functionality, then better use function. In an application, you can have both class components as well as function components. But these days, we are not preferring class components. Earlier in old versions up to React 17, so we have lot of difference between function and class. Some features are not available to functions. But from React 18, function have all the features which React is having, class is having, except that extensibility. That is the reason we are not much preferring the class components. We are preferring function. Even if you saw when we created a React application, app component was a function component. App component was a function component. It never used a class, right? Because the modern developers so think function is more better than, not think, it is better than class. That is the reason in modern React we don't prefer using classes. Earlier we used to, because we have so many options which are not available for functions. That is the reason we were taking help of class, but now functions are equal to class. But here and there some extensibility issues will come. To overcome that, we are going with class. So we have 2 types of options. So function and by using class, right? So how do we define by using function? Actually, function, what is the option? Function advantage, few points I will give. Function is lightweight. So lightweight, another one is it uses less memory. It is fast in rendering. Am I right? Rendering. These are the basic things. right? What is the problem with class? What is the problem with class? Class is heavy. So class is heavy. It uses more memory and it is slow in rendering. It is slow in rendering. Means I am giving just basic points. Later you are going to learn detailed descriptions. What is class component, function components, the technical differences and all. This is just a JavaScript way I am explaining. What is difference function and class. But what is the advantage is easy to extend. And here it is so hard to extend. Hard to extend. Extensibility issues will be there. And it is easy to extend. So we will see both techniques. How do we create, right? How do we design? Let's see. What is the basic syntax? I will show you here. So example here. Let's see here a function component. First, I will show you how to create a function component. And in that, what are the basic rules? Very important is when you are designing a function component, component function can be parameterless or parameterized. Why to use parameters? We will see that also. So you can write a function parameterless or parameterized. And very important is every function component must return presentation. Every function component must return presentation, must return markup. Compulsory, it must return markup. So that means how do we write syntactically? We write function. What is the function? Some component name, any component name. The parameters are optional. You may or may not give, but it must return. It must return a presentation. Presentation is defined by using what? Markup. By using the markup, we have to create the presentation. We have to create the presentation by using markup. This is compulsory. That is basic actually. That means if you create any function, without returning a presentation, it is not a component. Every component function must return presentation. It must return presentation. And here so many rules are there. First important is, so component uses JSX. Component uses JSX, actually JavaScript extension library. JSX is JavaScript extension library. That means it's not just plain JavaScript. It is a JavaScript extension library. It is a more little bit different language of JavaScript. Here rules will be little different. JavaScript only, but JavaScript's extension. It is a separate language. JSX is a separate language. Actually, it is a JavaScript language with little bit more extensions into this. So component uses JavaScript extensions. Then so many points are there. What are the points here? So what do you have to know about this JSX extension is JSX will not allow multiple lines without a block. JSX will not allow multiple lines without a block. That means you are writing a paragraph. This is line 1. Okay. After that, or suppose there is a heading. This is like head 1. Okay. Head 1. And we have paragraph. This is invalid in JSX. It is invalid in JSX. JSX will not allow multiple lines. So without block. That means what is valid? That means this is invalid. It's not possible. You cannot write like this. you have to make sure that these two are kept in one container. Understood? In this, you have to write heading. In this, you have to write paragraph. You cannot individually write. So JSX will not allow individual lines, individual blocks. Everything must be in one container. That means complete presentation must written, complete presentation must written as one block. That's important. Complete presentation actually we call as one fragment. Complete presentation must written as one fragment, not several fragments. Only one fragment. In that you put anything. That means main container should be only one. Inside that there can be so many containers you can add, but there must be only one fragment. Let's see here. Let's go to the app.js file. This is function. In this function, you can see here, I am writing in written, I am writing heading 1. I am writing here, welcome to React. I am writing like this. Now remember, this is one container only, na? Only one container, na? So it is valid, no problem. It is only one container, it is valid. Let's run this and see. Local host, what is it? 3000. Okay, now you can see that is working fine. But under this, I put a paragraph. It uses JSX. It's not working. Now you need, it's an error. You have to keep this in one container. In one container, you can put like a div, paragraph, anything. You just need one container. Any container it can be. It can be a span or a div or anything. It should be in only one fragment. Everything should written in one fragment. Now you can see it returns. It should written in only one fragment. Very, very important here is this fragment can be written in several ways. It can be defined in several ways. Actually, you can define the fragment like this. You can keep a div, right? Any container, or you can use an empty fragment like this. You can use an empty fragment like this, or you can also use react.fragment. By using this react.fragment, you can present the content. So you can use any of these. You can use any of these. Now, when to use these three, I will tell you differences. We will discuss about that. For example, div is, you can see this information is rendering where this information is rendering. This information is rendering in index.html inside this div. Am I right? Now, what you are doing inside the div, you are rendering another div. Why? It's not great idea. Understood? That means now what is the presentation will be like? What is the presentation will be like? The presentation will be, this is the div, ID is what? Root. In that what it is doing, it is rendering another div. Why you are using that? Right? Directly render that into this location. Then in that case, if you don't want any extra container to render, then better you can keep this as empty fragment. Understood? This is okay, because it will not render any new thing. It will just add this to the root. It will add this to the root. Otherwise, what will happen? Otherwise, it is going to generate one div and it will add that div into existing div. This may lead to a lot of CSS issues. If you are writing a lot of CSS in presentation, it will be. That is very important. So first basic rule, every function or class, every presentation must written as one fragment. It should written as one fragment. Another very important, JSX will not allow void elements. Already I told you. Understood? JSX will not allow void elements. Void elements means every element must have end tag. Every element must have end tag. For example, you know IMG. IMG don't have an end tag, but this is invalid here. You have to use IMG and end IMG, or you have to use IMG self-ending like this. That is the habit of writing a self-ending, right? Actually, if any element is not having child elements inside, then self-ending is okay. But if there are some child elements to come, then you cannot write this self-ending. Understood? Self-ending is required. Self-ending you can do if there is no child inside. If there is a child, then you cannot write. For example, if I write select, so like this, is it valid? It's not valid because select contains some child elements inside, right? Then you have to use that end element for that. This is the basic. And every JavaScript extension have these two basic rules. So what is the first basic rule? Everything must return as one fragment. Second one, you cannot have any void elements. And very important is you cannot bind any content to attribute. You cannot bind any content to attribute. Only properties are allowed. You cannot bind anything to attribute. For example, I hope you people know difference between attribute and property. In HTML, what you use are attributes. In JavaScript, what you use are properties. For example, I am writing a div. For this div, I want to apply a CSS class. That means I am writing class is equal to some form. Like this class I am applying like form. This is invalid. That is invalid. Why invalid? Div is having a class, na? Then why it is invalid? Because class is attribute name and JSX cannot use attributes. It can use only property name. I hope you people know div property name is class name. You know it? That means dynamically, if I want to apply a CSS class to any element, we don't use class. We use what? Class name. Then we have to bind that to this property. This is valid. Understood? You can't bind anything. For example, I say image src is equal to some path. Is it valid? Is it valid? Is it valid? Why not valid? In JavaScript, how to apply image source? In JavaScript, if I want to dynamically apply some image source, which attribute we use? src only. That means property name is src, attribute name also src. Understood? But for some properties, attribute name, property name different. Those you have to write in same property way. This is valid. Am I right? This is valid. So you need to define this is valid. But some properties are not valid. Some properties are not valid. You have to change the names. You have to change the names. That we will see that. So you cannot bind anything. For example, suppose I want to bind some CSS here. I am just using class. Class is equal to some name, some form like that I am giving. But actually, there is no class. You can see it is nothing showing here. But when you inspect and you go to the console, when you open this console, in the console you can see warning. It says that invalid dope property class. It means class name. It is saying that there is no class. You cannot use this class. You have to use what? Class name. You have to define the property name. Then only it is valid. Otherwise, it is a problem. Understood? That class we will apply later, how we can define that. By following all these basic rules, we need to design a component. We will see how to design the components, right? So that we will see in our next session. Tomorrow we will do that. So what we will do tomorrow, we will take example of Netflix screen, and we will try to design that screen with the help of the knowledge of components. Then you will get a real idea of how the components are designed and kept. Tomorrow we will try to create the initial screen of Netflix by using this components concept. First we will see function component, then we will see class difference. You can understand. Tomorrow we'll continue with that. Okay, is it clear up to this? Right, tomorrow we will continue. So tomorrow one more time I will explain, and we will see practically now implementing how to do this. Okay, right. And offline tomorrow onwards, you